Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka 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 podcast.
Baka!
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Baka Baka Baka. We are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we watch an anime. We come together on this podcast. We talk about it. We turn the discussion over to our comment sections to get further information. That sounded boring, but it's fun. We do this in fun. So yeah, we watched the anime Dragon Pilot. Now we're all going to talk about it. We're going to spoil everything. We're going to review it, and then we're going to let you tell us why we were wrong. To do this, I need the help of my co-hosts. First off, we have the Draco to my Bowen, Jeremy.
Who's Bowen?
That
Who's
would
Draco?
be Dennis Quaid, and Sean Connery would have been Draco.
Oh my God! You're going back to
That's a
Dragonheart.
poll. That's a
Geez.
90s Dragonheart movie.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
really enjoyed that movie.
I did
Yeah.
too. The second one sucked. I think there was even a third one, but the first
Weren't
one
they
was
like
good.
DVD movies? I
Yeah.
assume they-
Yeah,
How are
they're
you,
good.
Jeremy?
I am doing well. Doing well. Listening to Audible.
Yeah, who still hasn't sponsored us? Those
Still has not sponsored us.
next.
There was a BattleTech book that, you know, I've got a bunch of the other BattleTech books, and they're usually not great books. But it's BattleTech, right? So I had to get it. And so I've listened to about halfway through it, and the guy who's reading, he's doing a good job, and he's trying so hard to sell this story, but the story is just so, I don't know, it probably comes off the back of listening to like a Peter F. Hamilton story, like Pandora Star and Judas Unchained. I mean, they're so good. It's like a 40-hour book where every bit of the environment is embellished, and you get every detail, and it's really hard to listen to, even with my level of fanaticism towards BattleTech lore.
You know what's got a great story library? Star Wars.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
Okay, let's introduce our other host. He is the Ord to my Max, Jason. Dragon Tales, let's all go to Dragon Tales. You guys your kids never watched the Dragon Tales show where the kids go to Dragonland and hang out with the preschooler dragons? No?
No.
Okay, well, all the other parents of toddlers are loving this right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, is that the... Wait. Is that the new thing, or is that a super old thing you're trying to look cool with?
Somewhere in between? Jason, how are you?
This is Jason's topic. Doing pretty well. My Warframe addiction is getting worse.
Oh.
It's like, no, their developers are pretty active with the community, and they've been showing a lot of the new content that they're delivering. And one of the new memes is because they're going to have animal tracking, so like, where's the poop? Where's the poop? So it's got like pictures of the developers in these streams, and they're like, "Where's the poop?"
awesome.
How's your guild doing?
Has not grown much, but
Much like this podcast.
we have all the things that you would need from it. So like, I wouldn't need to go join another to get the things I need. So
Nice. Yeah. So, my name is Troy, and guys, guess what I got to go do?
I know. what you got to
Oh,
go.
you got to see the new movie.
I got to
Yeah.
see the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie in English dub because I'm a scrub. I'm sitting in the theater for the English dub, and they showed a trailer for the new Dragon Ball Z movie with Broly. And I was like, oh, English dub, that's for nerds. Even though it's definitely a different crowd than most moviegoers, because like, and this is coming from a guy with a beard who reviews animes on a podcast, stands up at the very end of the movie like, that's the biggest plot hole I've ever seen in this anime. the credits aren't rolling yet. Calm down, dude. Anyway, my review. The movie is really, really fun. If you're a fan of My Hero Academia, it is definitely like a filler. No one's going to be in a new emotional place than they were. It happens in between season 2 and season 3. It is canon, but nothing changes. Deku doesn't break any new body parts. Doesn't get any new scars, because then you wouldn't understand it. Like, we're at the end of season 3 for those keeping up with the anime. So,
and you mentioned that they even call it out themselves that this is shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, there was an episode in season 3 where they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go back to the end of season 2 and do a little intro to this," and they like literally saying it out loud. But the movie was really fun, and I've never been in a movie where a certain song started playing and the entire audience just felt like grabbed onto an electrical wire. Like, you could just feel the energy. You say Red. You say Red's.
Yeah.
It plays and it's like, oh my
It
gosh.
also goes with
Here
everything.
we go.
That's awesome.
All right. Let's talk about the anime that we watched, Dragon Pilot, Hisone and Masotan. Let's give non-spoiler reviews. Jason, it's not your turn. Jeremy, you picked this anime. Non-spoiler, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It was light, kind of a little bit of a popcorny anime. It was not what I expected, not at the beginning, and it kind of really changes in the middle. You start to get a sense of what the bigger story is that's going on. And up till then, it's a little bit light on major story plot arcs. But it was a thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Okay. Jason, you may now unleash the beast.
So this anime, like Jeremy said, was light. It was fluffy. It was silly. All the things I hate in anime.
That is not true. You love Dragon Maid.
That is true.
That is true.
So we'll pull that back in, because you've talked about how you want to really compare like what you didn't get out of this. So because later,
for me, I didn't connect with any of the characters. I have some really big complaints about not only story development but also character development, because I feel a comedy needs to stand on specifically character development, and just the weird contrast in the whole thing. But I would not recommend this.
Okay. For the most part, I would. I enjoyed it.
Sell out.
Like, at the end of the day, I walked away with a smile and I was entertained. I don't know if I'd ever go back and rewatch this again. I don't know if I'm not trying to convince other people to watch this. Like, I wouldn't try to sell it. It was just something that, I have to watch this. Well, this is pretty good. It makes me smile, and I'm ready to move on to more deeper. I want to see more Steins Gate. I'm ready to go back to Steins Gate now. I guess palate cleanser is the best I can say for it. Guys, the theme songs, opening and ending, what'd you guys think of those? I'm
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Jason skipped every single time.
I kind of, the opening song was so much like, the words are playing across the screen in the sub, the girl reaching for the sky and everything. I couldn't get past it. And I'm like, oh man, this is like young adult novel for girls. This is killing me here. Cause that's not my cup of tea. And so yeah, the intro always was really rough, but the outro, 2 thumbs up. Outro's fantastic. Awesome. Love the dance. Love the 70s vibe. Love how it was like all the characters didn't care that they were there dancing. They're just like chilling. It was awesome.
All right, Jason.
The opening was less than par, and the ending was horrific. I watched it once, and I was so annoyed. I never wanted to watch it again.
Horrific?
Wow.
Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration.
So I could feel the hate.
But it was I don't have any good things to say about it.
Sir, I scrambled on the Netflix skip outro button. I tried to get rid of it as fast as I could on the ending every time. Like, no way I'm missing the dance off. Bum, 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 bum. So good.
That's awesome.
For the intro, it's interesting because it's very different and I liked the sound of it and stuff, but it wasn't something I was coming back to listen to every time like the outro was. I appreciated it like one or two times. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's a nice start off for the anime. But I kind of agree with Jeremy that it's a little more melodrama than I want. It's not really my cup of tea.
It was kind of weird too that I think it was episode 7. I watched it again after not watching it except for episode 1, and I didn't remember it going the same direction it did with the imagery. I think it changed.
The imagery does change. 7. I noticed. I wrote it down at some point where I noticed it, but I don't know when if it officially changed. They add the big thing coming out of the clouds.
Yeah, exactly.
And more characters are appearing in it. So yes, it does go through a change, which is cool.
So who was this directed and written by?
Okay, this was directed by Shinji Higuchi. It was written by Mari Okada, and the studio is Bones, same as My Hero Academia.
You know what other notable works Mario Okada has done?
I do know, but I want to know if you know.
She also wrote Kisniver.
Is that true?
No.
I've got the Wikipedia article for Kisniver right here.
No way. So you were right, Troy. It is. Are you going to say it?
It is. She did the series composition. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this Dragon Sniper?
Yeah. When I saw that, you know how angry that made me?
Oh God.
Not to go too much into spoilers, but we actually had a little bit of a discussion off screen talking about, because Jason didn't like
episode
this.
7, by the way.
We were
not that I'm scarred to remember.
Yeah, there was something directly in there, and
the trauma is real.
We called out the themes of this anime are the same themes of Kisniver, performed in completely different ways, completely different plot, but the central theme about socially inept people finding a connection, it's the exact same. And oh my gosh, that's a great find. I looked up the writer and I didn't click on other works. Oh, that's
hysterical.
That's amazing.
So when did you find that out, Jason?
So
I'm curious your bias.
We were talking about how I'm having a tough time with this anime. And I wanted to find out what other people had thought. So I was looking at different reviews, and because every single review was just this glowing review. One of the reviewers go, and she's done certain other works like and Kisniver. And I was like, that's not true.
I can smell it.
For those new to this podcast, Kisniver would be the lowest of lows for Jason of things we've watched.
Yes.
So much so, I'm going to send him T-shirts for Christmas.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our spoiler section so we can keep moving. But man, that is like a bomb dropped on us.
Yeah.
Okay. So spoiler section starting now. We're going through plot, characters, theories, maybe. So if you have not seen the anime, you have to decide which of us you believe the most and go make your choice. Otherwise, just follow along with us. Okay, so, oh boy. We start with our main character in high school, friendless, social nobody, no career ambitions, writing in her notebook, I'm going to join the Air Self-Defense Force, which is the Air Force in Japan. This is Hisone, our main character. Guys, thoughts on Hisone?
She's an awesome character. I guess I'm used to letting Jason go first just because it's fun to kind of riff off of whatever he says. But I guess I'll go first since we know what Jason's going to say. So I really liked Hisone. Hisone was an awesome character. It's fun to see a character that just says what they're thinking, and yet they know it's going to offend, but they're trying so hard. Like, they don't want to offend, but at the same time, they want to say exactly what they're seeing and what they're observing. And so they're straddling that line, and they're constantly beating themselves up over it. And so her insights are always entertaining, and it's fun to watch the people react, and it's fun to watch her kind of try to bite it back. She has a lot of personality that comes out in her interactions with Masotan. As far as there are some things that are kind of a little bit annoying, but to me that just goes into the emotional nature of Dragon's Sniper, the connection there. And I don't think that that's specific to Hisone. I think that is like just the nature of how she's supposed to change and fix her complex, and just I don't like that story beat, and that story beat is central to all these characters. They all have that. So that was kind of a little bit of a downside to her, but everything else was great. I really enjoyed the character.
All right, Jason?
Again, with a comedy slash, I'm actually right. How are you supposed to define
Drama.
this?
This is a comedy slash drama.
Comedy slash drama. Man, it didn't. Okay. Getting back on track. She didn't have the character growth I was hoping for, or at least looking for. When I was objectively trying to, okay, I'm gonna be honest. Everything about her really irritated me. I couldn't stand watching her. But that type of personality works in different scenarios, and it just, for me, did not work with this anime, especially in a comedic slash drama setting. She was, she was awkward. The things she said weren't that funny, and it didn't. It was fluffy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you say she's not funny, but comedy's subjective.
Right.
I found her English dub dialogue very funny most of the time. I found the way she rambled very funny. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to the animators with her facial animations, because at some point they were like getting South Park crazy. Her reactions to things and the way they draw her face, the way her eyes would sink, the way like her mouth would hang open. I found her very humorous. Probably one of the few things I actually found very humorous in this was her. She worked better than almost any other character. She's my favorite character, and I don't usually like to give that to the main character because it seems like a cop out. I relate to her social awkwardness, and I really enjoy the fact that she has this horrible habit where she's very frank with people. She tells them exactly what she thinks. She does not hold back, but she knows she does that, and she knows it has effects on people, and so she tries to curb it. And I enjoyed watching that play out, because usually you have characters. There's another character in this who treats people very similarly, but is aware of it and doesn't care how other people feel, and that's what I'm used to. But having a character that actually cared how her words affected people, but still felt the urge to say them, was a great inner struggle that she had to overcome throughout this anime.
She never overcame it.
No, it's part of her, and she needed to accept who she was.
Yeah, the overcoming was simply to accept it and not quite to be as bad as the other girl, but to recognize when it's good to speak and when it's good to bite your tongue.
And she never bites her tongue, but that's what makes it obnoxious, in my opinion. But anyways, I do have something semi-good to say about this anime. Yes.
Save it for the end.
So you mentioned the animation. I don't think we really talked about it much. Jeremy said as soon as he saw it, it was going to irritate me.
I thought it would, yeah.
I have to say, the animation itself, like the art style, was nice. I haven't seen that kind of art style in quite some time. Unfortunately for me, I think it was jarring with the 3D, especially when they were inside the dragons.
Mode.
That art style with the 3D-ish of the models, it was jarring every time. It was really noticeable in the cockpits, and then also when they were doing like the actual planes.
Yeah.
But I will say, every single flight scene was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous scenery, especially in the clouds, and also like backdrop shots were fantastic.
Okay. This Hisone does join the Air Force. She's just like a receptionist in it, and had passed some kind of test. It wasn't a test. So they sent out forms to everyone on the base, right? And they had to fill them out. And she was compatible with something. So they give her this weird assignment. Hey, go deliver this to this hangar. And she, this is when we first see her, because she's like, how do I do this? I'm like, oh, just take the scooter. She's like, well, taking the scooter doesn't tell me how to get where I'm going or who I'm going to give this to. And they turn around like, what'd you say? Nothing. I didn't say nothing. And so she does have to search this Air Force base. She's trying to find this hangar. She runs into the lady selling yogurt. And what's the other thing that the main thing she sells? I always just wrote down yogurt. They call her the yogurt lady in the English dub because it's not
it
popular.
Was Joy, which was yogurt.
Okay. She gives her the strawberry yogurt.
She asks for the orange.
Yeah.
When she finally finds Hangar 8, it's empty. Dark, a dragon comes out of the water and she gets eaten.
I loved it. Just that whole concept. That's so cool.
Credits roll. I give it a no.
Yeah.
This is our other character. I want to talk about him now because he's technically the other main character is Masotan, the dragon. But we can kind of talk about how all the dragons and what you guys thought of them, and even as like a concept and how this worked. Because in this world, there's these, they call them OTFs. They're dragons that they put jet parts on, and they fold their bodies up to look like actual airplanes.
It's so painful.
Yeah, the size thing totally didn't work. Also, my favorite was loading a cargo pod into the back of an airplane that is not. It's a dragon.
Yes, I thought the same thing. The dragon's like wailing as they're shoving the cargo pod in. Okay. It's stuff like that sold me on the humor for this.
So, thoughts on Masotan and the other dragons?
100% disrespectful to a mythical creature. That is amazing.
Yes.
No, okay, I'm being hyperbolic. I did not like the portrayal. I understand it's a comedy. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. It's a comedy. This whole situation doesn't add up in my own brain for how they're going about it, who's doing it, why they're doing it, what's the setup. Like, just everything about these dragons is confusing to me because it just... yeah. That's I thought they were decent characters in a silly way, but I didn't like the way they were portrayed.
Okay, Jeremy, how about you?
So I never actually thought of the dragons as characters so much as just sort of present forces of nature, almost like
your Ellie,
like a who?
Like your Ellie.
Ellie, who's Ellie?
Penguin. The character who doesn't think of her dragon as a dragon. It was a joke.
Oh, must not have passed the sub.
What is she?
Are you talking about F2 girl?
F2 girl, who? I wrote down Ella first, but they kept calling her Ellie, so I wrote down Ellie in our notes. Is that what
I always think of her as Hoshino because that's
yeah. One thing is like because they're in business and stuff. A lot of people use last names most of the time, but some people are using first names, and everyone also has code names. So everyone has like multiple names. Yeah.
Okay. I keep looking at the list of names, and I'm like, I don't know who half these people are.
Much like Hisone while flying. My joke crashed and burned. Okay.
Oh yes, but yeah, I thought of them as sort of just almost like pets that. I don't know. I see pets as even a little bit more intelligent. These guys were almost just extensions of emotion, just empaths entirely. They were almost just backdrop. They never really mattered to me because of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, one of the things I didn't really buy into this was the connection between Hisone and Masotan. I didn't really feel... It was like they went from, I don't trust you, this is weird, okay, we're best friends now. And I never... And it's very clear from the human side how that's felt. I never really got it from the dragon side.
Yeah, that's why I think of them as like a force of nature, where it's like they are there for a purpose, and they're attracted to something or someone that's compatible. And when they find them, it really doesn't matter who that person is. but like a pet, they can recognize the name if it's spoken enough and associate it with the fulfillment of that purpose. It was weird.
It was like I bought Free Willy, connecting with that boy, but I didn't buy this dragon connecting with this girl. It was weird because I did have that disconnect the entire anime. It was like, I mean, you're telling me they're connected, so I get it, but I don't know if it's really been shown that well. That was just my take on it.
Yeah.
I liked the F2's design. The other dragons were kind of lame.
Mm-hmm. The other ones looked like children's shows dragons, and then this one looked like an anime dragon.
Right.
Yeah.
See, Jason? Objective criticism.
Yeah.
Okay. When she wakes up in the hospital, she's told about dragons. I love the line. It's actually in the trailer of the commander officer explains, okay, in all the past, dragons have existed, and it's been the government. It was the rulers of Japan first, but then it passed on to the government to hide their identity. We used to do it in kites and ribbons, and now we use airplane parts and we hide them. And she doesn't react, and he turns to the other officer. He's like, she didn't listen to a word I said, did she?
Yeah.
This exposition dump was poorly done.
It's very much concept forced down your throat.
Yeah.
Not just that, but like incoherent, like kites, really. And why has the government been the ones to always deal with these, and nobody knows about them?
Because
really?
they used to work for the emperor or the shogun. Whoever. I don't know my Japanese.
No. My point is that you're telling me for hundreds of years, or thousands, really, nobody else knows about these things, and then you've got this top secret government secret that you're going to tell this new recruit into the thing because she passed some sort of written test.
And
the way you, the way you see if it's cool is if you send her into what seems to be an abandoned warehouse where she's eaten by a monster.
Well, considering that was the innocuous way to see if she was compatible with the dragon,
right? Because that's how the dragons choose their pilots.
It wasn't eating her so much as just putting her in the pilot's seat.
Also, he was eating her because of what she was holding.
That's exactly. It kind of reminds me of what did we watch just recently? 7 Deadly Sins. And they have a huge exposition dump at the beginning of every episode, which is the same exposition dump. But on the first episode, you're like, okay, so this is the history of this world, and you kind of got to soak it up. That didn't bother me.
It was, hey, here's the concept, everyone. We're just going to go from here. And it's not super graceful, and it's not super like the best writing, but also it's kind of like, okay, thank you for telling me where we're at. Let's go on with the actual story.
Yeah, it wasn't the important part of this anime.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
suck it, Jason.
It's made clear.
All right, so she's quickly put into this program to be a pilot.
Basically against her will.
And we meet a bunch of characters. We meet Okanagi, the mechanic, who ends up being a very important character in this anime. He's not only, the head mechanic of these dragons, which is a weird thing to say, but he turns out to have another big part to play in what's going on. In the English dub, he is a very famous voice actor, so all my kids were, because he's on what's that Ladybug show? Miraculous Ladybug. You guys don't know it? It's a French anime, superhero. And he
like Zig and Sharko.
Sure. So it was cool to hear that guy's voice. Anyway, I liked the character a lot. I thought he was very normal, and sweet. He was a sweet guy.
He had interesting layers, and I liked and disliked what they did with him in the latter half. It's kind of weird.
Layers? Really?
Layers more in the sense of like how they revealed that there was more to him than what we were originally presented with. Like, I had this image of him as just the mechanic that was just this shy guy, but it turns out he's far more important and had other things to hide and other reasons that he might have had that kind of personality.
I'll say this, compared to every other male character, he was probably the best, most fleshed out character.
Yeah. That's fair. Just don't compare it to other anime. He was okay. He just kind of felt there, kind of almost like a plot device to continue on this emotional theme and unnecessary jealousy, I guess.
Are you saying you didn't ship it? Your face is amazing right now.
I didn't ship anybody. Okay, that's not true. The obnoxious guy pilot and the hardcore girl pilot, I can get behind that.
Yep.
And the other character she meets, which is great, she sees like this young child in the building, the barracks she's going to stay in, and she gives her the yogurt that she's been keeping in her pocket since forever now. Yeah. Girl grabs it, drinks it, yells at her for having it warm, and then we learn that's actually her bunkmate and it's part of the program. She's like, "Oh, I thought you were just a child in here," and she's like, "I'm gonna bully you." This is Kachan. I mean, now.
Yes, I absolutely loved this character for the first half. In the latter half, she was still good, but she didn't get enough limelight anymore. And all of her hostility kind of slowly dissolved.
I feel like the character grew past that. And then once she had grown past it, it was like, okay, well, there's not much to do with you now.
Exactly.
So in my opinion, she is the only character in this entire anime that had any character growth.
I still think Hisone has growth. I don't know.
Really?
I do too.
I don't see her any different from episode 2 than she was in the very final scene of the last episode.
She's completely alone with no friends in episode 2, and she has a bunch of people she cares about who care about her and are worried about her if she happens to disappear.
Having people around you doesn't count as character growth. We're talking about her personally.
I was just going to point to the I want to join the Special Defense Force to protect what's precious to me, and she has like this whole sequence of explaining how she didn't really have anything precious to her, but now she does. So she's
That's fair. So a little bit
positing about her character growth.
And I would say letting these people into her life, it wasn't just they liked her, she liked them back. She formed relationships. That was literally that's it. She cannot form relationships at the start of this. She pretends to be like other people in high school and no one cares about her and she doesn't care about anybody else. By the end of this anime, there's people she cares about. Those people care about her in return. She has relationships.
Okay, that's fair. I just can't relate to her at all.
Even her parents, she doesn't really connect with because she's like, "Oh, my parents are so great, and I'm the worst."
Actually, her dad was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was just chewed out. I was looking at that. I was like, "Good grief, she's so depressed so quickly." Then they gave us the flashback, and I was like, "Oh, it makes sense." Okay.
You know what the most important point of that scene for me was? That she was under that table blanket thing that they got in Dragon Maid.
Dragon Maid, yep. Every time I see those in anime now, I'm like, I know what that is now. Yep. I actually one of my favorite things she does is, so in this she quits fabulously. She's like, you guys have not been paying attention to me. I didn't want to do this from the start. This is all against proper regulations. And she quits, but she ends up going back and meeting the dragon to ask him why. She gets eaten. They take off. His stomach acids is like burning her, but she gets a phone call. But when she's in the dragon, she says, "I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. You spent so much money raising me. Now I'm just going to die." I was like, wow, who thinks of that when they die? Like, I can't believe I wasted all my mom and dad's money with my life. That made me laugh.
Yep.
Kids are expensive.
That's 100% true.
So yeah, then she's able to use the phone to call back to the base. They're able to help her bring Masotan in. She makes it turn into a jet. What did you guys think? Let's say it. What did you guys think of the Dragon Transformers?
Stupid.
Not particularly fond of it, and I'm having trouble trying to come up with some way to make sense of how the transformation works, given the base technology level presented elsewhere.
It's almost all on the dragon just to make himself fit in it, right?
Okay,
It's
well,
all over the place.
The dragon triggers stuff. He triggers like his.
Yeah, let's take 2 steps back here.
It's got to be cybernetic.
Where? Like in like episode 1 or 2, they show them like dressing the dragon, and like if you look down by his feet, there's like the cones of the afterburners go around his feet.
Yeah,
and then later on, when you see the afterburners go, you see feet behind the flames.
Yeah, in one of the dragons, you see fire come out of the soles of his feet.
Right.
So, are you telling me that dragons fly by jet propulsion from the bottoms of their feet?
Yes.
Yeah, in this world they do.
And the big thing about this is that the dragons produce body heat, and they use flying to expel it, and they expel it from their feet to propel themselves.
The whole transformation thing was really weird for those reasons. And also, like, you see, like that one I kind of understood as a sort of like, this is the dragon physiological thing in this.
Yeah, it's an in-universe explanation, and they stuck to that rule. I didn't think they ever broke that rule or anything.
Yeah, but the thing that got me was, like, I haven't seen the technology that would explain why the dragon can actually, like, lower landing gear. Because all she's doing is pushing different organs inside the dragon. There are no controls. But she's pushing organs, and she's like, the landing gear's down. Oh, the wing's out.
That can be hand-waved with sensors on the skin that are triggered by certain motions inside.
That's even technology I don't think I don't
think it's technology. I think the whole thing is just the dragons have masterful control over their muscles, and they can literally fold themselves into pieces, and they can make little parts just pop out. Because look how much control they have over the insides of their stomach, where they can, like,
that's true,
warp it and shape it how they want and twist it. That was my thought, is that they can just literally make their muscles poke out. Hey, time to poke out those landing gears. She pressed this part of my stomach. Got that one. Got that one. I'm glad the camera can't see my stomach, because I was doing it.
Your landing gear popped out.
I think one of the big things that bugged me, and I noticed it as soon as the other 4 or the other 3 came on screen. All of them were Western style or German style dragons.
Yeah, even though they drew Japanese dragons in the original.
Yeah, Chinese, Japanese dragons. None of them were present in that bugged me.
Also, isn't the F-16 an American plane?
I don't know.
Or do the Japanese use it too? I don't know. I'm pretty sure the F-16. I mean, it's in Top Gun, and everything I know about jets I learned from Top Gun, so I know everything.
I know a lot of planes are just by more than one country, but I'm not sure about the F-16 particularly.
Anyway, we find out that Masotan wanted her flip phone. Dragons eat precious metals, and flip phones have more than smartphones.
And apparently they don't need very much, because flip phones appear.
Yeah, if you eat like a dozen, you're sick.
Yeah. And I was thinking of it at first as like, oh, okay, so they're like dog cookies for dragons, right? But later it's like, no, they can't handle very many of them. These are full meals. I don't understand the physiology in that way, but I guess it's just how that it works. Like, those are the rules they present you with. So
it doesn't matter.
So in the next episode, we kind of have to deal with Nao's bullying of Hisone and their relationship, because a character named Ikushima shows up, and he creates the pilot suits that don't dissolve from stomach acid.
This guy.
And he measures you by, like, grabbing your butt and putting it in his face.
Is it rude that when I saw this character, I was like, oh, Jeremy in an anime?
Yes, I love it. I mean, his special line is, "Don't worry, I only care about your body." It's like at the end of the anime, completely out of context, and it's great. And in context, it's no better. It's still a horrible line, and I love it.
So the reason that kind of triggers now is because she has a kind of a crush on this guy, and yet all he cares about is getting the new dragon pilot, or the D-Pie as they're called.
D-Pilot. Oh, is it D-Pie in the dub?
Yeah.
It's D-Pilot in sub.
Yeah, they're OTF pilots, they're dragon pilots, and they're D-Pie. And apparently now they're also D-Pies. D-Pilots.
and now is end up like a understudy, even though she was trying to become the pilot.
Yeah, she was the next candidate, but she wouldn't. Masotan wouldn't need her.
Yeah.
So she is officially a D pilot, but she has no dragon.
Which
but that's
really
happened
made me
before.
Sad, yeah.
Yeah, I kept waiting for her to get a dragon. I was like, give her a dragon. This is one of my favorite characters.
Exactly.
I absolutely love the next sequence of events where she keeps trying to bully Hisone, and Hisone just thinks they're acts of kindness because she like swaps out her food, but it turns out that Hisone loves the food she got. And she's like, "Oh, that's so nice of you." Puts on the Emperor's New Clothes on like audio at night, but she's like, "Oh, my cat loved this story. Now I can sleep."
Which backfires on her, so she has to stay up all night because she can't go to sleep till it's finished.
Yeah, and so she gets to the point where she tries to sabotage the outfits that they're creating, and she gets caught by the commanding officer and quits and runs away angrily. And they're talking about how they have to go do a search party for her because it's been a couple of days since she's disappeared, and how it's going to cost her 1 million yen because of all the resources that'll be used. So Hisone volunteers to take Masotan out. They go flying. They do find her because Masotan knows her scent. And they actually get Masotan to eat her and take her back to the base, which is a big deal because he's never been willing to put her in his stomach. That sounds bad, but that's the cockpit of the dragon. You have to go in there and like push on their organs to get them to fly.
To me, this was a very important part of the show, just the idea that they had to be inside the dragon. If they had just put them in a cockpit on the dragon or something, the show wouldn't have done it for me. But the fact that they went this far and did something so weird, so strange, was really, really good.
Now, there is a full-size cockpit on his back.
It's a dummy cockpit.
He had room for 2 people.
Yeah, why couldn't they put her in that? That's oh my god, you're right.
Because Hisone had to walk back, which is not a big deal, but
no, I think they kind of showed it later on. I think being inside, you're able to negate some of the G forces that the dragon can do that regular planes can't.
Yeah, because the head got ripped off the ball.
So I'm going to preface that I really, really doubt any of the writers actually thought about that, but that's my theory.
That's a good theory.
Okay. The next episode, we find out about Hisone's predecessor. There was a pilot before her whose nickname was Forrest. They call him tack names, your tactical name, and all the male pilots who I actually didn't really like in the beginning because they're played off so chauvinistic. Like it was so much and.
I think it was their version of macho, like macho, hot airmen, like and ace pilots kind of thing.
Some of it I understood because, there aren't women pilots and Japan does that and that's a very different cultural thing. So I kind of understood. I understood the guys who were like, I can't believe we're letting women be pilots. And I'm like, Japan, what you going to do? But the guys who were like, yeah, let's go bang all these dragon pilots. And I was like, I mean, I get it, but it was also really strong, just for my personal taste.
Yeah, it was very much locker room talk, high-level machismo. I enjoyed it.
And everyone loves locker room talk these days.
Yeah!
Hisone actually screws up a flight maneuver in practice flight, and turns on afterburners she wasn't supposed to. It damages the other jets, and the air show is coming up for these regular pilots, and because one of the jets are damaged by her, she gets ordered to take part in it with Masotan, but she's horrible at flying and she's having trouble communicating with him. And this
actually, that's kind of a theme in the show was we're going to force you to do this thing because you screwed up, or you can pay for the screw up. Because it happened with Now. They were like, oh, well, it's 1 million zen, or not zen, yen. Zenny's a different show. Yeah, it's 1 million yen to go look for you, to put on a manhunt.
We own you now.
Yeah. And then this was the same thing. It's like, oh, you can pay for the jet, or you can go out and do this maneuver.
Yep.
old pilot shows up, and she is a
Mom.
She's a mom with a little kid. And Masotan is very excited to see her, and Hisone gets offended by this and scolds both of them. Like, how dare you show up and not tell me how to do what I'm supposed to be able to do, and you already know. And Masotan, how dare you like her more than me? I'm your dang pilot right now.
Yep.
They go out for the air show, and Masotan gets shy with crowds for this episode. Which kind of makes sense since the dragons aren't ever around people, you know, but it's also just for this. And Hisone, through her bluntness, scolds him and gets him to, which ends up calming him down. How much do you guys think the fact that she says stuff so bluntly is what he's looking for? Or is that just I
think it's resolve. I think it's resolve and connection. Like the fact that she's being so honest with him, if you think of it in a one-to-one human relationship, when you're that honest with somebody, you're actually creating a bridge, you're creating a bond with them. So I think he's reacting empathically to that.
I like that. No comment from Jason. All right.
I think it was written into the story.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
She then is able to perform the flight with the other jets. One thing we learned, though, that's very important for later is that this older pilot, whose name is Moriyama, she says, I didn't quit being a pilot when I got pregnant. He quit flying with me when I got married. And she actually stole the commanding officers. Man.
I really liked how that played out later. Like, oh, man.
I felt I was watching a soap opera.
The best parts.
Because what? You saw a soap opera? They didn't stare at each other for 10 minutes like, dun, 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 when they revealed I stole your man.
Slight intrigue.
Like, it was like 2 lines in the whole darn thing.
Yeah, but it completely explains her disdain with everyone around her, specifically the pilots. It's like, my life was ruined because of this one little thing, and now I'm going to devote my life to this thing that I'm not even happy about because I didn't get to go off and get married.
She's now in the future.
What?
The commanding officer is now's future. Like, she was a D-Pie who never got chosen and then watched other people throw it away and has been bitter and resentful because of that, but still wants to help and do her part. That's exactly what Now's going through in her arc.
That's a good point.
But she gets into a better place because of it.
But I don't understand what the point of it though is.
It's not a soap opera. It's one character's backstory helping us understand another character. It's all world building.
No, the whole
Sorry.
the whole you took the job I wanted, but then you threw that job away that I felt was so important while stealing my man feels very soap opera-ish.
I think the my man part is for the joke, the punchline of, and it was your man.
Wait, that was a joke?
Most of the anime was a joke.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Episode 4. We get 3 new pilots.
I didn't get this either.
One thing about this that was a little confusing. These 3 new dragons and their pilots are brought in to do joint training, but we find out later, like, no, it was always about you 4 having to do a mission together. So why did they keep the dragons separate? Was it just to better their chances of finding pilots? I don't really get that.
The only thing that I got from it was that they were from different territories, and so they probably were each in their own thing. Just that's where the dragon lived up till then, maybe.
Okay.
Dragons are traditionally considered territorial.
So we meet our 3 new characters, and we do need to talk about them. I really liked 2 of them. First off, we have the sleepy, lazy Lilyco, who loves the kingdom guy. What did you guys think of Lilyco? Tack name Jimmy. Oh, speaking of tack names, we forgot Hisone's tack name, which is Hisone.
Hisone.
I didn't get this joke at first. It wasn't until they said it the second time when she's like, my tech name's Hisone. That's what we've been calling you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't get it. Sorry. Anyway, Lilico.
I kind of enjoyed Lilico's performance, just because it was so vastly different from everyone else's. Also, her really subdued melancholy, like I want to nap all the time, really kind of personified how I felt about the anime up until this point so far.
That's the one character you related to,
right? The Kingdom gag was pretty good. Because I think this might be would have been the only time that I actually kind of smirked, because she sees this trail of her favorite manga, and she looks up. She's like, "This is awfully suspicious." Oh well, and she just continues picking them up. I enjoyed that. That was good.
Yep. I thought she was a little bit boring for me. Like the other one stood out so much. It was a nice contrast sometimes, and other times she just faded so much into the background. It was like their way of saying she's here, but she's not really important.
I thought she was good for punchlines. Because she's the quiet and doesn't say something, so when she does speak, it's like the ultimate burn, like at the right moment. She always has that, wait, we were already calling you that. You know?
It's true, she kind of did, which almost makes her like the Froppy a little bit.
Yeah.
In some ways. But I kind of thought that was sort of taken up by the main character, Hisone. Because she's always doing the straight talking.
Yeah, this was just someone to point out the main character's thing.
Someone to straight talk the straight talker, which we get another straight talker later.
Yeah. And then we also have Mayumi, attack name Morris, who is the bigger girl with the bigger dragon.
There was one scene where I absolutely cracked up. I loved this character for it. And that was when she started feeding the male pilot.
And then started rubbing his leg.
Yes.
He grabbed his thigh.
Oh, God, because she's like, my dragon loves it when I stroke his thigh. And she, the way that whole scene played out, I was like, okay, all right, you're endeared to me now. You made me laugh. This is fantastic. Other than that, there's very little that I found interesting in her. I mean, obviously, she's got anger issues she's trying to get through, but she was just kind of boring, lighthearted character. Another one that I would put in the background.
I liked that she was this, like, I'm the happy, lovey girl. And then she also, why are you talking crap about my dragon, dude?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got beef now. And I really I loved her relationship with her dragon probably more than any of the other DPI.
Mm-hmm. I would have liked to have seen it continue, because it just disappears once we see what the story is about, and we have some of the resolution with the individual characters. She just doesn't do that anymore. And I think if she had continued, I could say the same thing.
Her most interesting part was when she's got this bubbly, light, everything's bubbles attitude, and then when she gets upset, even though her voice is still nice, she's breaking crap. If that was explored, I probably would have had such a better view of her as a character.
Her scene where she tells off Ellie and then goes, picking up my stuff, backing out the room.
Yes, that was funny.
It's very funny. I laughed.
Yep.
I know comedy's subjective. I just don't understand what's wrong with your subject. Okay, then we have Ellie, tech name Penguin. This is the serious, I'm a woman trying to make it in a man's world pilot. Thoughts on her?
I kind of liked her. I thought she seemed to be the only one with resolve in the entire thing, except for now. And I thought her character growth was decent as well. Kind of coming to terms with who she was and why she was doing it. And also, I thought she was drawn pretty great. No, I really liked why she was named Penguin. I thought that was pretty decent.
That was cool. I did not see that coming either. When they were calling her Penguin, I was like, what is this? Like, how are you going to tie that back? But they did a good job. I absolutely hated her at the beginning, but not in a way that you might be thinking, like, it was a good hate. Like, this is what they intended. They wrote her in such a way that you're supposed to be irritated with her coldness toward her counterpart, toward her dragon. And they did a good job with that. And I really did not like her. I didn't like how focused she was, focused to the exclusion of actually taking in input from her surroundings to see, where to put her foot next. So because she wasn't actually paying attention and putting her feet in the right places, she just kept stepping in crap or putting her foot in her mouth, right? Just ruining everything. Especially when you get on the island, you get to see that play out step by step. But once the anime got about 2/3 of the way through, I really liked the direction that she went as a character. She started opening her eyes to, oh, this is my view of the world, and it may not necessarily be right. And started thinking maybe there's more to things than she initially thought, and it completely changed her.
I don't dislike her. It's just I found her arc to be predictable, which isn't completely unique to her. But like as soon as she's like, I'm a woman and I only want to fly fighter jets, and then and I have a dragon that's only like staying in his fighter jet mode. And I was like, why is that happening? It's like, wait, that's really obvious why that's happening, guys. Can't you tell? And at the end of her arc, they say, he's doing this for you, so you can feel like you're a pilot. I'm like, wait, we knew that. That's so obvious. and because I was really into Hisone's own growth and arc, I felt like I had to wait for this one to get done. I'm like, yeah, just realize you love your dragon. Come on. I'm waiting. That thought went, especially on the island. I'm like, realize you love your dragon because you're going to end up loving your dragon. Duh. And so I just didn't really connect with her arc. It is a full arc. It's not a bad arc. It's just, I saw it coming in, and for some reason it just didn't click with me.
That's interesting because I had the exact opposite reaction. I had no interest in Hisone, and her arc, even though it was predictable, I still was more interested in it than hers. I do have one question for you. If this was predictable, was there anything about this anime that wasn't predictable?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What the point of the dragon pilots were. Like, I didn't see that coming. When they started introducing a character we'll get to in a little bit, the Iboshi, I was like, where is this going? Because I thought we were going to get into like war and they use these dragon pilots for battle. And then it started going into like, there's a ritual. I'm like, wait, a ritual? What does that mean? I didn't know what we were going to.
So I'll give you that. Until they used the word ritual, I didn't really have an idea. As soon as they said ritual, the first thing that popped into my mind, because of the movies I used to watch as a small child, I was like, oh, Godzilla.
The Godzilla ritual.
I didn't get that. I figured sacrifice. I'm like, there's going to be a thing about a sacrifice. I saw that coming. But the whole Lord Mamoshi or whatever his name is, Dragon Lord.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Along the same lines, what I didn't see coming was when he's talking about the ritual, and up to this point, we're starting to learn that the girls have to have a dependency on the dragons and that they're broken people. And the stronger the dependency, the better D-pilot that they're going to be, and that they need to get that to the highest peak they possibly can before the ritual. I was like, oh, okay, that means that they're going to try to help these girls overcome their complexes so they can better link with the dragons. I fundamentally misunderstood until he explicitly stated it later that was not their objective. It's actually a bit more sinister if you think about it from the perspective of the girls' well-being.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't, these girls have the inner strength through Dragon Pride. It was like, no, these girls are messed up and they have trouble in the real world, and that's what makes them good at this, and we're going to embrace that. And like, because I know the chart made you mad, but what the point of the chart was to break it, I thought was way better than anything in, say, Kisniver.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh my god, they're trying, when he says stain them black, because all this time this guy Ibisho or whatever his name is, he's calling them white lovers, and he's like unwrapping, I don't know, sometimes it's white chocolate, sometimes it's eggs, hard-boiled eggs.
I was wondering at first if it was a condom.
I know, I did too.
I was like, what are you holding?
What are you holding called a white lover? But in the end, he's like, he builds and builds and builds on this concept of they're so pure, they're so clean, they're white lovers. And then he's like, and we have to stain them black. And I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. This is great. Yeah.
So to jump back into the story, these pilots arrive. I liked Hisone trying to figure out a way, like, I'm going to have friends. This is going to be friendship. And like having the self-help magazine and like ways to make friends. But they're all socially bad. And so they don't connect. And then they're disconnect, especially with Ellie, who thinks of, you guys are just animal keepers. I'm a pilot, you know. She's like, Han Solo, I'm a pilot. 10 times.
Don't need my Wookiee.
She gets Ellie gets flirted with by Zaito, the male pilot,
the ace,
the chauvinistic one, the one who had been talking about stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna break her down and I'm gonna get her. And so the next day when they're doing training exercises, these two have a skirmish in the sky, and Ellie pushes what she calls F2, her dragon, too hard, and his tail literally bursts out of the plane, and they have to get him down and into the pool because he's overheating so bad. Because they can't expel heat very well when they're in jet form because of the armors just kind of bottling it in. Because I think the whole point is like they're like a soda bottle and you're shaking it up and then spouting out the top so they can.
But didn't you just say that they were expelling it out their afterburner?
When they're in jet form, but they can still flap their wings.
And he was in jet form using his jets.
But there wasn't enough expulsion. That's why the tail popped out. It like literally broke through. Too much heat.
Well, I actually didn't get it didn't understand it to be heat. I understood it to be more like muscle contractions. Like the way that they talked about it before she took off, they kept saying, you know, if your dragon stays in this form for this long, it's eventually they're not going to be able to hold it. They can only hold this transformed state for so long. And so I thought it was just that he was exhausted.
Didn't they throw it in the water as soon as it landed, though? Weren't they like, get it in the pool now? It's too hot.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but
okay,
it was weird. It was a weird situation.
Spoiler alert. There is no answer.
This is not a deep lore anime. This is a character comedy drama. They're like, I didn't need the concept to hold up really well because it's a very silly concept to start with.
Any time where you have like a creature ingesting you and sometimes its stomach acid harms you and other times it doesn't. I mean, I realize that it's because they're on the right wavelength now. Their chemistry is compatible and the suit is helping and whatnot. But just like
I love that scene.
Why
are you slimy?
Yeah,
because they don't irritate their dragon and it never changes. She's still slimy, puked out every single episode.
Yes.
Okay. So this all kind of makes the pilots fight because of how they treat dragons, yada, yada, yada. And then we do meet the character Iboshi. Villain? Hero? Both? What do you guys think?
This is White Lover guy, right?
Yeah.
I think because there's a bigger thing going on here and his objective is to stop a greater tragedy, I can't view him as a villain.
Yeah.
But maybe from the perspective of these girls, if they truly understood that he was sacrificing them and their futures for the sake of the greater avoiding tragedy, he could be seen as a small-time villain or as a localized villain.
Yeah, he's the closest thing to a protagonist because he's kind of been the one behind the scenes this entire time, and maneuvering events to where these girls were now not only training but also having to do this survival training on the island. But I mean, it is for the greater good, and they have to do this every 75 years, 74 years.
74, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think everyone's a protagonist in this. I don't think just because everyone's trying to achieve the same goal. But
I'm sorry, antagonist. My bad.
Oh, antagonist? Oh, okay.
He's the closest thing to an antagonist in this anime.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think we can call the Lord.
No, he's just more of a force of nature doing what he
Yeah.
does.
Doing his thing.
I feel like his spot in the story is where you would put an antagonist, but I never felt like he had ill wishes for anyone or like he didn't seem malicious. And they used him a lot for comedy situations too, which I didn't feel like you would do if he was a true villain. There is one scene near the end where he's like, "No, you have to do it this way," and they're like, "You're not here. We're doing this our way. You're not willing to come in here and be the sacrifice, are you?" And like they point out, anyone could be the sacrifice. Yeah. So, yeah, you say greater good, but he's not willing to be the sacrifice. Well,
but I don't know. I think that there's a lot of variables in play. Like, for instance, for him to get up there's all of these traditions. They keep talking about the traditions that have been passed down all this time, and who built the altar inside of the giant dragon, right? Like, how did they figure out that this is how you solve this problem? So, I mean, there comes a point
we
where...
know that.
Well, I mean, the first time.
Isn't the structure inside of him the same structure that was on outside of him? Did he just pull it inside?
He just went inside out?
When he manifested?
Is that why they kept saying the other side? It was a little fuzzy in the sub.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, there were shrine gates on the outside, then there were shrine gates on the inside. And I guess I just assumed they were the same shrine gates.
I never saw an altar on the outside the way they had the altar on the inside, but maybe it was just a part of the caves they didn't find on the inhabited island. But I mean,
that temple did like crash and like fall apart too when he was chanting.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. There's a lot of strange things, but I mean, it was mentioned that regular planes can't get through the hurricane around him to actually get in. So he would have to do it as a passenger on the one of the dragons. But they've already got the tradition of sending the Mikos to quiet it down and calm it. So I don't know, like inserting himself in there in a tradition that's already been tested and proven to work would seem like taking a chance that you don't have to necessarily take.
It didn't seem like a surprise though when they're like, yeah, anyone could literally do the final thing though.
I thought that was weird when they're like, oh yeah, this is common knowledge among us. That shouldn't have been.
We can dig into that more when we get to it. Let's talk about the island episodes because that's what's up next. The D-Pie, after a very funny shower scene.
Yeah.
Where the two girls are complaining out loud and it ends up being a conversation between them because they didn't realize they were showering next to each other. Nothing, Jason?
It's good fan service.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit.
I'll give it that.
They get.
And she forgot her bra. There's more fan service. The ace pilot gets to come out and make his constant observations.
That scene was actually very funny. When he keeps trying, like, I'm not looking. I'm gonna take a look. Oh my god, it looked.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Looking through his hand.
Yep.
So they get sent to an island for basically survival training. They're told that they have 1 week to get off. But they don't have enough food for 3 days. So when they get dropped off, their first thing are like, oh, we'll just jump in our dragons and go. But the dragons won't take off. And then the dragon literally eats all the food and water.
And why didn't they take off?
From what I understood, they were given something that upset their stomachs. Because they were saying the dragon's stomachs are upset, that's why they can't take off. In the sub, that's what I got. So I was trying to figure out.
There was no explanation.
Native. No, there wasn't. It was just the dragons don't work right now. Don't really know.
I thought the dragons didn't want to leave.
Well, later they decided that because the dragons were having so much fun, they wouldn't
wait for the dragons to get ready.
But it didn't seem like it was a matter of choice for the dragons initially because they all readily ate them but were like, yeah, no, we're not taking off. Why would you eat them if you weren't planning to fly?
Yeah, I guess it wasn't explained. I don't have anything to add. You get to see each character's quirks kind of bringing out the worst of them as, hey, we need to find water. I did a rain dance. I'm going to take a nap.
I love that. And the other one's dousing. I loved that. As soon as I saw her with a stick, I'm like, oh, they're going to put dousing in this? That's awesome.
Ellie is building a raft so she can escape, but she's only building it big enough for like one person. And they're like, "What about your dragon?" "Not my problem." Then Hisone wanders across the island, finds shrine gates, leads to like a temple and a cave, and Masotan's in there in fresh water, and she's like, "Hey, I found water." She comes back, and the other girls found yams and built a fire, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna be okay. We can do this." And so they do decide, yeah, let's just stay. Meanwhile, Ellie's like, "I'm building this raft."
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when she tries to take the raft out, it's when the storm's coming, and it like shatters almost instantly. Like one wave hits it and just breaks apart. When this storm hits, they lose track of Ellie, and we should also talk about the Now doll, who
Oh God,
they have the head of Now, which
so
was
great.
which the doll Now made for the air show at some point, and Hisone, not wanting to leave her best friend behind, stole the head off this doll and took it to the island with her to talk to, so that she would have someone to yell at her to tell her what to do.
Even when the dragon was trying to eat one of the bags, and we're wondering, like, why is this bag so important? Hisone's hanging off the bag, trying to pull it out of the dragon's mouth. She's like, "You can't eat that. That's important." Now's head, like, rolls out of the bag. It was so morbidly funny. It was awesome. And she does the voice for Now, too.
Yes.
Like, it's good. Yep.
Jason, I know you like this scene. You have to say something.
I did find it humorous that she was talking to the head, because it kind of had that Castaway callback. Wilson!
Yeah.
And even when she lost the head in the water, it was very reminiscent of "I'm sorry, Wilson." I think the culmination of Penguin's character arc on the island, I thought was pretty good as compared to everything else in the anime. But the way Hisone found out that it was fresh water pissed me off.
Oh, I love that.
Every time she licked her dragon, I wanted to just turn it off.
So great.
That was the best.
It was awesome. The first time it happened, just it primed it for me. Every time afterwards, I remembered that moment, and it just the voice actress did so good at it too.
The animation just all upset me.
It's so pure. It's a character.
Yeah.
Is that why I hate it?
Yeah, that's probably it. Drag it through the dirt a few times first.
I'm sure you can find tons of people that, if their dogs weren't covered in fur, would lick them back just because this is how my dog, shows me affection. And I would, and I know there are people who lick their dogs. That's gross when you let them.
It's disgusting, but yes, there are people
who do that, and that's what it was. It was this person was like, "This is how he's showing me affection. I don't know how to show him affection, so I'm just going to do this right back at you." And she was so. It's what I love about Hisone is that when she gets an idea in her head, she goes at it 100% fearless, no matter how stupid it is. And that's what the licking is. It is a stupid idea that she commits to.
Yeah.
She do it like 6 times in this anime, and I love it every single time.
Yeah.
The one way that you can guarantee that you're saying the same thing back to the creature is to do the same thing the creature did to you.
And the sound effect's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Plus, there's a lot of times when they'll actually, like, this anime does a really good job skirting that edge of being just a little bit, well, not a little bit, just being a bit dirty suggestive. And they really emphasize it with the few one-liners at the end of every episode after the outro. But sometimes when she's talking about that, "Oh, I'll lick you too." Oh, it's just, there's these really uncomfortable, awkward moments, but it's so funny at the same time because you're only reading into it whatever you're reading into it.
Yeah. And commenters, we know about the fetish thing. We're not talking about it.
We're going to avoid that.
We're going away from it. So they do find Ellie because her OTF turns on his afterburners to tell them where she is. They're able to get her to safety. However, that makes him overheat and he's getting hurt, but he refuses to remove from jet form, and then we have the culmination of Ellie's arc where she finally comes up to her dragon, says, "Quit doing this for me. I'll be a dragon pilot instead of a jet pilot."
See, that's weird. That means that using the afterburners without flying causes heat buildup. Is that because he had to anchor himself while doing it? I wonder. The science of this anime is intriguing, Jason.
Science of one of the most cartoony things
I'm sorry. Did you just imply that the science mattered at all with this anime?
Science always matters, man.
Remember how much technical jargon they did about the cell phone working? Like, they could have just had the cell phone work, and I would have been like, yeah, of course cell phones work inside a dragon tummy. Why wouldn't they? And they're all this like, oh, it must be linking through the headset of the helmet. So we're able to do that. And I'm like, do we need to know this?
Very important.
You could just say the cell phone works in the dragon tummy. So then after she bonds with her dragon and she calls out its true name, and we learn that by calling it F2, she was using like a pun to call it its real name the whole time.
I thought this was a little bit hard to believe because she was so believable as this intense, determined, don't care about anything. I'll leave you behind on the island and take my raft. And yet she's supposed to have this soft spot for the dragon where she's just immediately able to not feel any guilt or any shame for her previous treatment of the dragon afterwards. It's just completely forgotten. Like, she trusts the dragon so much and knows that the dragon has forgiven her for everything she just did. That seemed a little bit hard for me to believe. I kind of expected her to be like a bit more tentative in using this name that she now wants to give it and everything, but she wasn't.
So they get home. I agree with Jerry.
Okay.
But yeah, then they go home from the island, and then we get Jason's favorite episode. So this is the episode with the relationship chart. Now, if you've ever heard us talk about Kisniger, there was a very big point of contention because a relationship chart. Yeah, I believe that's when I started getting Jason to use the word shipping for the first time ever. So that shows up here because
why not?
The commanding officers decide that the best way to prevent these girls from falling in love is to make them fall in love and break their hearts so they never want to be in a relationship ever again.
They can only love their dragons.
I understand, and I have a cognitive presence that there is not an answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
I'm going to answer it no matter what it is.
Yeah.
You have a world-shattering event coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You are preparing for. Why are you engaging in such risky plan and not tell anyone about it literally months before this event is supposed to happen that you're training these girls to do?
What do you mean by risky?
Okay, imagine 2 out of the 4 have this issue going on and they can't fly anymore.
Yeah, I don't understand what's risky about their plan that was presented in this episode. Because the reason characters fall in love isn't because of this plan.
What are you talking about? It's exactly the reason.
No, those characters were already falling in love. And in fact, the main girl of this says, yeah, they're not going to have relationships. She misses the fact that 2 of the girls are falling in love, which is why it still happens.
They had arrows pointing to each other. What are you talking about?
She was like, hey, these are the most likely relationships.
Right.
And they tell Okanogi, take her out, go on a date, and then break her heart. But she was falling in love with him before that. That was already going to happen. And if you don't do this and try to break her heart, then it's going to happen no matter what.
But why aren't they making this? Why aren't they making the girls aware of this? Like, hey, no,
they can't know they're being tricked. Then the trick doesn't work.
Then it's not a trick.
Oh, it is a trick. It's completely a trick.
No, what I'm saying is, you don't make it a trick. Why the deception? What I couldn't wrap my head around this. The entire last half of this anime. Why the deception? There was no reason for it.
Because if you tell somebody, hey, you can't fall in love or else your dragon piloting won't work anymore, that's not as big a deterrent as if you teach them through experience that all men are evil and they should never, like, their emotional connection to the idea of not falling in love has nothing to do with this thing that they want to do. They can easily decide to put this thing that they want to do on a shelf at some point and change their mind and say, oh, I would rather pursue a relationship. They can do that. But if they get hurt and relationships are the bad guy, irrelevant this thing they want to do, it has no bearing on it. The relationship is bad. Then it's more of a guarantee that they will never pursue a relationship, which means they will be the D-pilot. I think it's also important that we bring out there were a couple other missing pieces that occurred, and that was they actually brought in a special staff member that was in charge of establishing relationships in bases. That's her job.
Wait, I thought she was just the base gossip, and they brought her in because she knew. Wasn't she the same girl who gave Hisone her orders in the beginning? In the first episode? Was it a different character? A lot of the characters have very similar designs.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection. But from what they were saying, they made it clear that, soldiers in the Special Defense Force that get married in the Special Defense Force stay in the Special Defense Force. If they get married to people that are not in it, they leave it. They have a higher probability of leaving. So they have a staff member that is able to try to keep people in the Special Defense Force so that their children grow up wanting to join the Special Defense Force and so that they stay in it. This is common practice for them to actually have a staff member that plots out relationships. And so they just brought her in to use her to plot out these relationships because they need to kill any chance of these girls ever actually wanting to be in a relationship. So that when it wasn't just so that they would remain D-pilots, but it was supposed to put them in greater harmony with the dragon because they'd be completely devoted to it.
Right.
Whereas even if they just made a decision to want to be a D-pilot and forsake relationships, they still wouldn't necessarily be as devoted as if they killed relationships, hated it, and only had the dragons.
Or instead of a really stupid, risky plan that could backfire, and all of a sudden now you're out 2 or 3 pilots because they want relationships more than they want dragons. You let them know that there's a world-shattering event coming. They need to stay single in order to pilot their dragons effectively. And then once the thing goes to sleep for the next 73 years, they can go date.
See, now I agree with that, but I think that when you're talking about this risky thing, there have been experiences, as we'll learn about in the past, and this may not be the only one, this dragon lady that we're going to find out about, this dragon pilot, where relationships caused a problem right at that moment because they didn't do anything about it.
It's not about dating. It's literally just about gaining an emotion for another person.
Yeah.
And like we see with Sada, it can literally be another person involved in the ritual.
Yeah.
It could be another D-pie.
Yeah.
Right. But if people are aware of it and the importance of it, I just don't.
I would hesitate to say that she wasn't aware of it at the time. And I mean, even as an old lady, she's aware of it.
Oh, you're talking about the old lady. No, I'm talking about our current 4 pilots.
But even after they are told, hey, the reason your dragon's spinning out is because you're in love,
they can't turn it off. Yeah. It's not something they could just turn off.
But that was initiated by command.
Well, I agree with Troy when he said that was already in progress. It might have been already in progress. Yeah, okay, fine. It was already in progress. But then command pushed it along. For a purpose.
Only Okanagi. Zaito was on his own. He had not received orders at that point. Okanagi was told to take
we know of.
Only. Okay.
Well, they made it clear every time that anyone was given orders regarding this chart.
The only one we see is Okanagi being ordered to take her out on a movie date.
Yeah, and then we see both of them being ordered to break the girls' hearts.
Right, which to me implied that they engaged everyone on that chart that was supposed to go after one of the girls. Why didn't this similar thing happen to the bigger one? She was on the chart with the arrow pointed to the big ear guy.
I'm going to guess that the whole reason that they have this plan is because things went badly in the last ritual.
Mm-hmm.
That they were like, we tried
to guarantee this.
Yeah, we tried last time being honest, or we tried just letting it be. And, it almost ruined the whole thing because of Sada. Hey, I'm this wacky, eccentric, weird guy, because who knows what Eboshi actually is.
Yeah,
here's my plan. Let's do this. And it's completely fair to say it's a bad plan, but I don't think it's completely fair to say there's no way they would do this plan or this is completely illogical to try.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see both sides of this. I don't think it's the direction I would have taken, but I can understand why he took it.
Okay, I don't get it, but I'm willing to let it go. With this, yes.
You see that chart, and it's just red. It's just red.
I love the fact that it was basically just a chart. But it's just a chart of probabilities too, and that's what's interesting. Like for me, when I saw that chart, I'm like, oh, this is the chart of probabilities of how to hurt these girls. So, it's not what I was expecting.
And also that pissed me off because it was
I kind of liked that. It was an interesting subversion. We weren't trying to fix them.
Like that.
Yeah, we're not trying to fix them. I'm tired of seeing them try to be fixed all the time. Let's break them.
These girls are no longer going to be pilots in like 6 months. Let's break them for life. Good call.
Well, I mean, we've got a really big 3 days, 3 night flight. They have to be completely attached. The level they're attached now might not be good enough. We have to guarantee our highest odds of success.
All right, I'm gonna go for it. I actually want to touch on something Jason said, but later about what happens after. At the end, remind me. I want to talk about what happened afterwards and why that changed. So this is where Liliko is bribed by Eboshi with manga chapters of Kingdom to spy on the other girls. Her spying was amazing. The way she would be like asking questions and be like, "Oh, that doesn't fit." I'm just gonna say no. Because every question she fills out, she gets a chapter.
Or now would
page.
Now would try to answer, and she's like, "No, not you.
No, I don't care about you." Hisone does go on a movie date with Okanagi. She cries at a zombie movie, but she's crying because she's never gone with friends to a movie that sucked. So even that was special to her.
God, I did not expect them to do what they did with the zombie movie. It was great. Where like even the protagonists of the zombie movies turned.
Yeah, everyone just started brains coming out of everyone.
I was more interested in the zombie movie than that.
We just watched the zombie movie in the last episode.
We see Ellie and Zaito's relationship kind of. There's definitely chemistry there. We see because the exercise room competition. But at the end, basically, the staff sergeant that was brought in for this love stuff is like, nope, none of these girls are capable of relationships. This is stupid. I love her line where she's walking away, but I could use a little romance. I like that. That was nice.
Yeah.
And the chart's thrown away because it was just a gag. I wonder if it's a reference to Kisniver, like made on purpose.
Oh, that's
like a little Easter egg. Like, remember, guys, when I did that shipping chart and how silly that was? I did it again.
This is for Baka Baka Baka.
I just the gags just all fell short for me. The entire thing.
Okay.
Sure, it's like, okay, let's move on.
Just keep an eye on the clock. That's all. The D-Pie run into the yogurt lady again, and she has made multiple appearances throughout this anime. I skipped over. She's been kind of weaving in. And in fact, when Eboshi found out she was on the base, he got upset that no one told him. And all his men suddenly rush in, and he comes up to her, and they all bow to her. And we find out that she is Sada, and she was the last ritual D-Pie for Masotan. She was his pilot. And so she's brought in to help the girls get ready for their next big training exercise, which is a 3-day flight, because they're told the whole point of all of this is these dragons have to escort a giant dragon called Lord Mitatsu to his next resting place. Like every 74 years, this giant dragon wakes up and starts flying to the next place he's going to sleep. And if he lands in Japan, he'll kill everybody. So they have to steer him back to some neutral area in the ocean so he can just become another island. He's also the island they were on.
I actually liked that. I thought that was pretty nice.
That was cool.
He looks really cool too. He's like a big whale. And speaking of whales, the dragons basically make whale sounds throughout this, which I thought was cool when they talked. And this Lord Matatsu, I'm pretty sure that's Godzilla's voice.
You think so?
I swear it was like a whale and Godzilla played together at the same time when he's flying. It's like, that sounds really familiar.
Oh, I like that.
Anyway, the yogurt lady, Sada, what did you guys think of her? Because she's kind of a major player now in the story.
It was foreshadowed really, really heavy throughout the first couple episodes that she was important. So it wasn't a big surprise.
Right, you don't bring a yogurt lady back 6 times if she's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Even though basically it was for yogurt gags, which, anyways, I kind of liked her because she brought a seriousness to the show and a heaviness of experience. And I really, actually, I do like how she's nice and old lady-ish and, kind of wisdom and elder. And then when they just won't get it, she just starts screaming at them.
Yeah. Yep.
I did like that a lot.
She reminded me of something out of like a Miyazaki film. Yeah. That's the vibes I was getting from her because, yeah, she's sweet and nice and wisdom, and like you said, and then fierce and grumpy when she needs to be.
You idiot! Yep. Yeah, she was pretty interesting. I liked her as a character.
So we see then the training of the 3-day flight, which is what they'll have to do, and they keep telling them like, you have to fly in your sleep. You're gonna have to sleep, and the girls aren't getting it, and they keep flying awake for 2 nights, and they're struggling, and the dragons are struggling. One of the dragons lands on the target balloon and just starts taking a nap on it, and Mazotan's dropping out of the sky, and they basically are told like, yeah, the dragons know you want to help carry their burden, but they want to make you happy, and they are making it so you can sleep, and they will fly anyway, based on what you want. So don't worry about it. So they do get to go to sleep. They do figure out how to do this. And then we meet the priestesses that show up. And for this other part of this ritual, you have to put these priestesses inside the giant dragon so they can lull it back to sleep. And then you can land it to where it needs to go. These priestesses are they're raised in like a community where all these people are dedicated to serving this dragon god. And they have made their whole lives ready for this. And Okanogi's one of them. He's from the same people.
Commune.
Yeah. And he's going to be the priest.
Yeah. One of the commune, not necessarily one of the dancing girls.
You know what?
Whatever floats your boat, right?
So I want to talk real quick about Natsume, just because I feel like her character is really important to Hisone because of what she isn't. She's also this blunt talker, but she doesn't have the empathy that cripples Hisone socially. So what did you guys think of her as kind of the foil of Hisone and how that all worked? Nice.
It was a bit predictable that priestess comes along and happens to know Okanogi, and then all of a sudden you've got this weird love triangle where Hisone doesn't even realize she's in love. And it's just awkward to watch. I couldn't connect with any of these characters. I didn't care.
The only thing that was awkward for me was that she was a high school girl.
No, they were all over 18.
No, they're still in high school.
Yeah, they're still in high school.
After the end of the anime, they literally showed them sitting back in high school after the ritual.
Yeah, because that's where they were all sitting in the room with the guys, and they're like, "Now we can have relationships." And the guy's like, "Don't you forget, they're high school girls. They're minors."
The dancers. Yeah, the D-pies were all over 18.
D-pies are adult.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, Natsume is like, I'm in love with this guy and I'm going to, compete with you for him. And I'm a high school girl. Now she's a high school girl who grew up with him and has been in love with him her whole life. And I think it's a little different in Japan. But still, I was like, maybe when you grow up, you can compete, girl, but you need to go back to class.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like she sees it as a promised relationship, right? Like they grew up together, so he's hers.
Right. Where he sees her as a sister.
Whereas he sees her as a sister, exactly. And I actually really liked how, even though Natsume was very much like Hisone, there were times when her overconfidence was completely shocked. Like she would say something, but the reaction she would get from Hisone just flabbergasted her. And there were even times where she would reach out and try to grab her and be like, wait. Or it was really funny. Also watching how there was an interaction where, because she never actually like came out and said, let's compete over him. She was being direct and yet at the same time being sly while claiming to be always direct. Like when she pulled the cola bottle out of the fridge and went on her description of how, he's mine, because she didn't say he's mine, but she described it, something about his youth that she knows about him that makes him more hers than Hisone's. And then Hisone described that, oh yeah, that doesn't apply anymore. He's actually changed. He's like this, the opposite of that now, which makes him more hers.
He turned into a grown-up. And
yeah. And so she gets so pissed, she just like shoves the Coca-Cola in her hand and stalks away. And those interactions to me made her a really entertaining character because she wasn't just one note. Like when it failed, her straight talking failed, she had a physical reaction displayed and she would act the way I would expect a regular person to act.
Other points that happen in this anime, they do grappling hook shooting at targets, and Hisone fails miserably. She's always way too far away.
Actually, all of them fail pretty hard, don't they?
They're not good at it. And this is important because at the end of the ritual, you have to untie the big dragon's tails so that he'll flip.
Which are also heads.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I noticed that. And then Ellie and Zaito end up having an accidental kiss because she sees him being flirted with. He's not flirting. He's actually, I actually like that his character like matured throughout this. And as he realized that he had feelings for this girl, he's like, I'm not, my view, like he was talking about like, you got to get the woman who knows how to cook. And here's how you deal with the guy. He was that guy. And then by the end of this, he's like, look, I'm not here to talk to high school girls. There's someone I care about. And yeah, you're going to take a selfie. I don't really care. But she sees this girl flirting with him and she gets upset. When he goes to apologize to her and explain, they fall down the stairs and he kisses her. I thought I was going to go to accidental boob grab because that's in every anime ever, but it went to accidental kiss. It's still weird. It probably hurts.
Getting slammed up against the wall face to face, like that's like bleeding lips at that point, isn't it?
Maybe a loose tooth,
broken nose.
Maybe that's why she slapped him. It hurt,
right?
Yeah.
So this Natsume character then goes to find Okanogi to flirt with him, and instead finds Hisone sleeping next to Masotan. And has a conversation with her and says, I'm in love with Okanogi and you're in love with him too. She's like, no, I don't like him. I mean, his hair's cute. He's got a beautiful voice and all this stuff. I don't love him. That's what love is, you idiot. And my favorite moment in the entire anime is Hisone realizing that she is in love with Okanogi. Both turning into a train sounds like, and then just sprinting. For no reason, just sprinting away because she can't handle her emotions, and then screaming at the top of her lungs, drawing a deep breath, screaming at the top of her lungs, and like 4 times she does this.
Yep.
I have 17-year-old teenage daughters. They are slightly socially awkward. This was them 100%. This is exactly what they would do if they realized they were in love with someone right now. It was so spot on and so perfect and so relatable that I laughed so hard at this moment. This is the funniest moment in the anime for me. I love this moment.
I'm glad.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. You know what? Because Niver wasn't that bad of an anime either.
That storm that's going on right now.
You settle down.
Jason sent it.
I don't want to like knock down your house or anything, but if like a branch went through a window or something, I probably wouldn't be that upset.
Okay. The next day, Ellie and Hisone's dragons freak out, and their digestive acids literally start burning their suits off of them, and they get shot out of the dragons, like regurgitated, because anastomosis has set in, which is basically if you fall in love with someone else, the dragons don't know how to process that emotion, and so they try to digest it. Which is weird, and a very weird way to explain why you can't fall in love, and a very weird. You're trying to create a complication for relationships, and I get that. Also, that they named it this is that it has this weird long name, but it is what it is, I guess.
I really liked how the dragons were drawn differently. Like they looked like they were in agony. Like their eyes get orange and yellow and shaky, and their fangs get big, and like they are freaking out.
That was the interesting thing, that it wasn't the dragons like being jealous or mad. It physically was painful for them, because there's a point where Masotan goes to lick her, and it stuns him when his tongue hits her because of the feelings that he tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's weird.
Yeah, I guess it would be like the hormones and pheromones and stuff she's kicking out.
Sure.
Makes sense in science.
Yeah, total science.
I think it has to do with that empath stuff you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
No comment, Jason?
No, actually. Okay. I didn't like this turn of events. It didn't make sense to me. I don't feel it was explained well, and there was no gag anymore. They started pulling away from as much comedy as they were doing and going more into the drama. And I think that's where this anime kind of lost me, was it went from light and fluffy to, oh, we have a world-ending disaster coming up. It didn't feel right.
I still feel like Hisone was so, especially, I just said in the last episode, the funniest moment of the series, the facial animations, she still reacts so weird when she comes up with ideas or when she talks to people. Her face is amazing. I wanted to just take screenshots of it and send it to you guys, because there's just so many weird facial animations they put into her.
I saw him. You didn't need to do that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go back.
Second shirt for Jason.
So they're grounded basically because they cannot fly with their dragons. It's too dangerous. Mayumi and Liliko are practicing landing on the aircraft carrier so they can practice landing on the giant dragon. It's not going great. Hisome, she's visiting with Masotan. She's trying to come to grips with how she feels. She's having a hard time. Now she kind of reaches the end of her character arc, because she's like, I'm starting to understand Masotan. Like, I kind of get what's going on, and I feel bad for Hisone. And the suit guy's like, I'm gonna make you a suit.
A junior
suit. It'll be my greatest challenge.
Yep. Oh God, yes. You never mentioned her tack name. I love her tack name.
Yes, and so she gets to fly with her tack name, which is Sexy Jaguar. which in the beginning was her joke, like, I'm gonna be Sexy Jaguar someday, and then she gets to fly, and they called her by that name, and that was a great payoff for a joke from much earlier. All she does though is she flies Masotan for short time periods, because she's not his true pilot, to help him expel the heat.
Like a maintenance pilot.
Yeah.
Yes. But she cannot do the 3-day mission, which is important. Ellie gets her heart broken by Zaito. He was ordered to break her heart, and he basically asked her, hey, we could be friends with benefits.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting that his scummy way of rejecting her was acting like he had been acting in the anime. I thought that was a nice twist.
It was like showing that, I didn't have any depth to begin with. That's all I was.
Right. So she's able to pilot again. It breaks her heart, and I loved her drunken night out. I got to eat this food because it was made by a man. They must destroy it.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
our
dirty.
being so weird. I kind of didn't like the next story beat where she's drunk and laying in like the smoking area or the lounge area, and Hisone is with her, and Sada comes up and is like, "Yeah, people will betray you, but your OTF never will." And I'm like, the wise lady is saying something that's clearly wrong. What this story is going for. I didn't like it.
Had she been introduced as her real character yet? I can't remember.
Yeah, we know she's
so we know who she is.
Pilot. We don't know what happened in the last ritual yet.
Yeah, we don't know, but it's very obvious at this point she was really, really hurt.
Yeah. I actually didn't mind that she said that. It fit her character, I thought, because surely she would be trying to do the same thing that the rest of them were. Like, I was hurt. Surely you're hurt.
But she wasn't hurt. She hurt something.
Well, yeah, she was hurt by loss.
Yeah. She had a loss.
I guess.
What?
No, you're right.
She wanted to have her cake and eat it too, and she didn't get to, and that's her loss. She wanted to fly the dragon and still get away and have her relationship, and that all failed.
Yeah.
Came tumbling down.
I don't like it.
Yep.
Just like this story.
Well,
Jason, stop being so bitter.
Hisone also, just like me, did not agree with. She feels something's off with those words. She goes to talk with Masotan, and Okanagi's there, and she has I loved that she's yelling at Okanagi like, "I came here to tell Masotan how I want to kiss you, and here talking to him instead." Classic Hisone, you guys know.
Yep.
You know by now. And eventually comes to realization, I quit. That's the best thing for me to do here. I'm in love. I love everyone here. I quit. Next episode.
That was another surprise for me. Like the whole idea that what she's battling against is not her own weaknesses anymore. It's bad advice. Right. She's trying to do the right thing, even though everyone else is telling her not to. That's a different struggle than you usually see.
Yeah, her reasoning was that because we get a flashback of how she quit, and then like the one superior officer throwing her out. But her explanation of like, I can't not care about these people, and if I stay, I'm going to hurt Masotan because of that, and I care about him the most. So the only thing I can think of to do is just to leave. That made logical sense to me, and then everyone else is still like upset with her for it. But well, I mean, the world could end, so
at least Japan could sink,
right?
Yeah.
So Lord Mitatsu wakes up. I'm probably going to call him just the Dragon Lord because I'm going to forget that name in 5 seconds. So they go off. The OTFs all fly out to him. He's in a giant hurricane. Really beautiful scene because there's this giant hurricane and lightning flashes, and you see the whale-like dragon flying through the sky. You hear Godzilla's roar. I swear to God that happened. And Sada is piloting Masotan instead because she's her former pilot and it should be okay. But it's not okay. Even though Hisone's at home, snug with her cat, Sada has flashbacks to the last ritual, and she did have feelings for one of the priestesses. They were going to run away together, but they ended up doing the ritual instead. Mm-hmm. These feelings then trigger the disease that the dragons hate, and Masotan starts freaking out, but he heads in Hisone's direction. He heads towards her home. Hisone finds her yearbook, sees where she wrote down, "Hey, I want to join the Air Defense Force to protect everything I care about," and realizes like, oh, now that I care about something, that makes sense. Basically.
Yep.
And she hears Masotan's roar.
In the storm, yeah.
In the storm. Did she really hear it, or is it more psychically heard it?
I think it's psychically. He's too far away for her to hear him.
Jason's just out. You watched it. You could at least form an opinion, a theory.
The writers wanted her to hear it. Look, I'm still. I gotta take 2 steps back since you're engaging me. Sada in Masotan in midair does not make sense. The moment he puts her in the cockpit, he would start freaking out because there's no way Sada throughout this entire thing has not thought about her previous lover. This doesn't make sense that she's this far into the air with Masotan.
I think they did a pretty good job of showing that she's such a serious lady that's so committed to solving this problem. She's so focused, just like the Air Force lady that's in charge of their flight team. She's completely determined. She's completely focused. She's pissed off, just like how Hoshino Ellie, right, is once she makes that decision that she hates men, she's so pissed off. She's so focused. And this old lady was like that until she started reminiscing about, oh man, I'm in the dragon. This is just like what happened to me before. Oh, it's the same exact scenario. It reminds me of that. Oh, that person that I loved. Boom, she experiences from memory that love again, and then.
But Sada's never had what's it called? Anastomosis before.
Even she did. That's why it shows her in the flashback standing on the dragon's side as he's flying out, not inside the dragon.
I thought she kept flying Masotan after the ritual. They said shouldn't she become a pilot in the war in Masotan?
There's another flashback that happens on an earlier episode when they're dreaming, and there's a woman standing on the shoulder of Masotan as he's flying, and I swear it's her. Which doesn't make any sense because how is the dragon flying if she's not inside of him? But I got the impression that it was, because she also said that maybe it wasn't, but I got the impression it was.
Did we ever have a flashback of
Masotan
freaking? Yeah, of that happening?
No, I don't think we did.
He flew out of the ritual in Masotan. Like I don't think this has ever kicked in before. I think she thinks or has up to this point found a way to suppress it. And now that the moment is coming up and she's about to go back to that place, she gets overwhelmed. Again, the science doesn't matter. There is no actual science. They made this up.
Science!
Yeah, because we want to talk about science. As soon as Masotan gets close to Hisone, she decides to take a scooter off the edge of a bridge on a ramp, and somehow he catches her.
Well, I mean, they were coordinating it. There was a third party that was telling her when to go. She didn't just drive off.
Just like a random jump in Masotan.
Yeah.
Masotan was there.
Sure, felt random. But then, okay, so.
But Masotan was, again, coming for her. He was specifically homing in on her.
Right. So he takes her in, and now Grandma's in there.
In the belly, yeah. His belly gets all fat, too.
Yeah, and he starts thinking. He's having trouble.
Yeah, I saw.
I thought he was going to poop her out because they say that sometimes if the dragon's stomach gets too irritated, you go out the other direction instead of being vomited out.
I wish that had happened.
Great.
I thought that was going to be the ending.
That would have been good. When when Hisone gets in there, did mastocytosis stop?
It looked like it did.
Yeah, it did because he's eating Hisone now instead of. I guess it doesn't matter.
Well, you guys should try it. Never mind. I don't want to argue about this anymore. Yeah, let's move on.
They go inside the giant dragon all together because they've got him on the right course now, and it's time to start the landing procedure. So they get the priestesses inside. And they start their dance.
Why didn't they show them unloading the tube? I think that would have been great.
The suppository tube? They did.
They showed it opening up and the priestess is coming out.
Yeah, no, they didn't see it being delivered.
You
really unloaded. Oh, that would have been good.
You just want poop. You want someone to poop in this anime.
A dragon, preferably.
Hopefully.
Sada and the D pilots wander off, and then that's when we find out there is a sacrifice, because we see priestess robes like floating in this void.
The Bindin. The moment they said Bindin, you're like, oh, she's bound.
Yeah, there's a there's a special one, and it's like, oh yeah. But like I said, as soon as they said ritual, I had assumed sacrifice. I thought it was gonna be a D pilot, but
like this whole thing feels so heavy for a comedy.
It's a comedy drama.
Yeah, it's a comedy drama. It's a hybrid.
Okay.
I wanted it to stay drama from this point out. I was like, yes, this is good.
I wish it was one or the other.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep going. Once they learned that
I didn't
sacrifice, they're like, hey, what should we do about this? And Hisone's like, no, I'm gonna stop this and save the world because I'm reckless, and this is what I do. I come up with bad ideas, and I commit.
Yeah, I did not like, from this point on, I was not happy with the direction things went. But go on.
Okay, I'll finish it, and then you can tell me why.
Come to my side.
Hisone basically flies Masotan into the ceremony, burst out, and starts arguing with Natsume about like, hey.
Vomited on Natsume first, too.
Yep. It had one more vomit gag. I loved it.
Yep.
Argues with her. If you die, how are you going to get this man from me? Because guess what? When you die, I'm going to kiss him so much.
That was funny.
This was funny. The way she's goading her to try to get her to want to live. Of like, I'm going to kiss your man. I'm going to be like touching him and stuff. I thought that was very funny and effective and perfectly fit the characters of what had been introduced.
I'll give me that. It definitely fit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They get the priestesses loaded back up. They're like, you know what? Because the Dragon Lord starts falling out of the sky. They're like, we're gonna turn him around. They miss the grappling hooks again. But it's always like, we're in dragons, and they go up and just like use the mouths and bite the rope off, which frees the tails. It flips over, and they're like, okay, now someone has to seal him away and put the bells, which is actually a dagger, into the magical circle. And oops, Natsume dropped it. And so he's like, yeah, but I picked it up. I'm going to do this. Okanagi volunteers first. And this is a part where they're like, oh yeah, anyone could be the sacrifice. It literally doesn't matter. Just someone has to be inside to close it. And
which means that Okanagi chose Natsume. He like just doomed her, because earlier he went into the Shinto shrine and he prayed, and he's like, she's going to be the Bindin.
I thought there was a ceremony where like he splashed water on a thing, and whatever it lands, that picks. I thought I didn't know. I think
I
thought it was like almost like
it wasn't his choice.
No, I didn't think that the splashing of the water indicated who it was. I thought that was part of the ceremony where he was getting the name.
I was under the impression he didn't pick, that he just did a thing and like just spin the bottle, and that's what it landed on.
Interesting. Okay, well maybe that's what happened.
The gods were picking her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hisone stabs the magic circle, and Masotan stays inside with her, and she gives him one good last lick.
So this scene pissed me off so much. If she's saying, Troy's like, oh, what did it just wrote? She keeps yelling at him to leave, to go. You still have time. You could still make it.
How?
Why didn't she stab it, get sucked up, and then just leave?
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were going for, but because she's like, I'm coming back. And I thought like, oh, she's going to do this cool, crazy flying out, and that, like her piloting skills will finally pay off. And she's like, stabs it and like looks around like, well, I guess I'm dead here.
Yeah.
You know how much more satisfying that would have been if she did? If it was this cool, like, Millennium Falcon, like flying out of the dragon thing. Like, I would have probably given it a little bit of praise.
I don't disagree with that, but I do think it served the character arc better what happened, because it established that all these people believed in her now, and that she had all these relationships, because we jumped to afterwards that everyone's, even though it's been 3 months, everyone's like, she's still coming back. We believe in her. She's not dead.
Yeah. I thought this was a situation where a lot of interesting decisions that led to intriguing results kind of boxed the character into a situation that they couldn't get out of without throwing around Deus Ex. So, number one, when she got anastomosis and then quit, how do we get her back in the dragon? And so that was a little bit awkward, but I was okay with it up to that point. I kind of would have preferred if the old lady had to see the flight through, but I don't know how that would have helped with the main character. Like, the main character is no longer the main character at that point. She has to be the one to achieve the end result. So I understand why they brought her back and did that, but then on top of that, okay, so now you've put her back in, you undid that, which was an intriguing thing. Now they both miss when they're using the tail things. And I'm like, okay, that was intriguing. How are you going to solve this? But then they just did what the tail things were supposed to be doing, but with dragon teeth instead. I was not happy with that.
I rolled my eyes like, yeah, why didn't they just realize they had dragons the whole time? We have hands and teeth. We're okay, guys. We don't need a hook.
Exactly. It made that immediately intriguing moment kind of sour to me. And then the next step, very quickly, she comes down. She's like, oh, this is how it's always been done. This is tradition. Well, I don't like it. I'm going to change it. I'll make it work. And so she just barges in and grabs Natsume. And I'm like, okay, yes, I understand that your emotions are riled up and that you want everyone to go home safely. But how many people are going to die if that thing lands in a populated area or if Japan sinks? Like, you are not getting the bigger picture here. And you think that, and so I was a little bit frustrated with that. But then when she actually managed to pull the girl and she dropped the bells, I didn't understand that the bells were important for the ceremony, but
they haven't told us yet.
Yeah. But when she got her out, I was like, okay, so how are you going to solve this? And I thought, is she going to sacrifice herself? Is the old lady going to sacrifice herself? Or
the old lady?
Yeah, that was my call too.
And I would have been okay with that if the old lady did. She goes to join the person that she loved so long ago. I thought that would have been a nice, elegant ending for it. So then when she flies, and then like for her to say, oh yeah, I grabbed the bell. We didn't see her grab the bell and we didn't know it was important. That to me was very much sort of hand wavy. Like, yeah, you need the bell. I got it. It's all good. Off screen, I picked it up. That was a bit frustrating. And then the fact that she's able to successfully go in, get back in there and stab the thing. And then, like you said, Jason, suggest to the dragon, why don't you leave without me? The dragons can't fly without you. How's a dragon supposed to leave without you? So, like, that wasn't even a good suggestion. And maybe she was just caught up in the moment. The emergency.
Masotan's like, I can't leave.
Exactly. I'm stuck, you idiot.
I want to go, but I can't.
Yeah. And then, like you said, Jason, she could have just hopped back into Masotan if there was that much time. And then later, when everybody's expecting her and they're all just believing she's going to make it out and everything, I was like, she's dead. Yes, this is good. Okay, if you give me this, I'm okay with all of those slips you did because it costs something to achieve what she wanted to achieve, which was unrealistic and outside of everything that they'd established as the rule set of how you accomplish their objective. She had to give something greater than what they were giving, which is her life instead of someone else's life.
But then they went for the happy ending. It's interesting because you're so logic-based that the idea of someone making an emotional choice that is wrong for the logical decision, like saving people for the greater good, always irritates you. But that's Hisone's character, right? She makes bad choices as she commits. I actually am okay with the good ending because it's the payoff to her commitment. Yeah, she made the wrong choice, but she makes it work. And that's what they were all saying. Like, Hisone makes the bad choices work. That's just why she's special. And so if it hadn't worked, if she still had to do the sacrifice for the greater good, then her decision through the whole, it would have lost what her character was about.
That's not special. That's irresponsible.
Sure. She is, that was very clearly defined a part of her character.
Right, but that shouldn't be celebrated.
Why not? I'm irresponsible too. Haven't you ever seen when this podcast gets put out? Never on time.
Right, but when you're irresponsible in your normal life, your wife slaps you. She doesn't say, "Oh, you're just so quirky."
There's consequences to irresponsibility in real life, and she didn't have to suffer any.
She saved the greater good and then still found a way to save everyone's lives. And that's
in other words, the fairy tale ending is completely achievable.
But that's why they all agreed to listen. That's why they all agreed to listen to her, because they knew she would.
Yeah, but that's sending the message that, and it's just a show, it's a cartoon. The message shouldn't be taken seriously. But like the idea that's conveyed is, if you want it, it'll just happen if you want it enough. Maybe you're that special person that rules don't apply to and reality doesn't apply to. And that just irritated me, because it's like, well, you're just going to fall on your face and you're going to be like, but everybody told me it would work this way. I could get away with it because rules don't apply to me.
Because I'm a sovereign citizen.
Yeah. That's right. God, I love those videos.
Quick question I have: Why did the OTF program end? Because it didn't seem like it had ended during the last ceremonies, but there was a war. Do they really just put the dragons away for like 70 years?
I think, yeah, they probably just go into remission unless there's some kind of war that comes up. That's the only conclusion I can make, other than
Kasada did fly in the war with Masotan, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought she did. I don't know if they ever came out and specifically said it.
They said that. I thought they said she was this great combat pilot, and they showed her like fighting airplanes, but she's doing crazy maneuvers.
What would happen to a dragon if
it got shot?
A Hellfire missile just like landed square on the wing or something like that.
It would ingest it through its butt.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Supposedly.
It's just a morph, and it can move its butt to wherever it needs to be to absorb the missile.
We have to go to final reviews.
That's
too bad. That's the end of the story. So basically, there's epilogue. Everyone's happy. I did like how, like, I have to go home. I guess I won't get to see Hisone when they comes back. No one's saying like maybe she won't. I like that. But then Okanagi climbs the mountain that the dragon became and gets eaten by Masotan. And Hisone, what are you doing here? What are you doing in here?
I would have loved it if they had like done that 3 months later. They're like, oh man, she's coming back. And then 10 years later, she'll be back.
No, the only one is Okanagi, like with a long beard, still hiking on the mountain.
Exactly.
This was too light of an anime to have a sad heartbreak. Yeah. I thought the good ending fit. So final reviews. Let's start with Jeremy. So, you can just brace him. Yeah, get himself.
So I still really enjoyed it. I did not like the ending, as I made clear. I think they could have gone with a more serious, painful ending at the end. At the ending, that's where it goes. But I would still give it three Bakas overall.
Jason?
This is not as bad as Kisniver. I didn't hate it the whole time through. I was just so bored. So I think it mainly because I didn't get the story, I didn't get the comedy, and I didn't connect with any of the characters. So I would definitely give it a 2.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3. I thought it was light. I thought it was fun. Not super rememberable. But that's okay. It was what it was, and I walked away with a smile on my face. The ending theme song gets a 4.
Yeah.
If you would like to comment on Dragon Pilot, that's currently airing on Netflix, please leave us a comment wherever you found this. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast or our email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts, filling out plot holes that we missed, any of that stuff. We would love to hear it. Thank you guys so much. The next anime we are watching is Planet With. This is an anime about non-violent alien invasion and the super-powered mech driving warriors who are trying to stop it. And our main character is a kid with amnesia who's trying to stop them, but he doesn't know why.
Did I hear you right? A non-violent alien invasion?
Yes.
How?
Also, there's a giant talking cat who likes to look up anime dolls' skirts.
Okay, I'm in.
Why do you guys hate me? Like, what did I do?
I'll say, I've watched the first episode. This is going to be a bizarre anime.
Awesome.
but keep an open mind, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Our next minisode is going to be about plot holes. It's going to be a continuation of our last minisode. And if you have any thoughts on that, like I said, leave us comments. We got to go.
Thanks for listening.
Better than Dragon Maid.
Sayonara.